Aloha, my name is Keahe Davis. I'm the education specialist for the King Kamehameha V Judiciary History Center, based here at Aliʻiōlani Hale in Honolulu, Hawaii. So our building, as I said, the name is Aliʻiōlani Hale. That name means heavenly chief or chief unto the heavens, and it is one of the names of Lota Kapuaiua, known better as Kamehameha V. The building is named in honor of him because he is responsible for the construction. Now, the story goes basically back in the 1860s, of course, Iolani Palace wasn't across the street there. There was a much smaller home over there, originally referred to as the Haleali'i, or the home of the chief. The name was changed to Iolani by Kamehameha V, and of course he was living across the street there in that smaller Iolani house. Thought it was time for a much larger home to reflect the stature of this island kingdom. There were no trained architects to take on the monumental task at that time. He knew that down in Sydney, Australia, there was an architectural society. And of course the climate in Sydney, very similar to the climate here year-round. So the word got out there was an international design competition for the building of a new Iolani Palace in the Kingdom of Hawaii. Its design was going to be used in the building of the palace. And at the time here, the government had set aside money for the building of the palace, and they'd also set aside money for the building of a new government house. But financially, they couldn't take on both tasks at the same time, so the government decided to prioritize things. So they wanted to build the government house first, worry about the palace later. The only problem with that plan is that they didn't have a design for the new government building. So the decision was made to borrow the design that had been submitted for the new Iolani Palace. And basically, this is what you see here. So they started construction in March of 1872. Later on that year in December, Kamehameha V died, so he never saw the completion of this building. The mo'i, or the king who did see the completion, was King Kalakaua, and he officiated at the opening ceremonies here in April of 1874. And when this building opened, this was the capital building for the Kingdom of Hawaii. So the legislature was housed here, the Departments of Interior, Treasury, Health, Education, the National Museum was housed here, as well as the Supreme Court for the Kingdom of Hawaii. Today, this is the home of the Supreme Court for the state of Hawaii. So basically, this is a seat of the judicial branch of government in the state of Hawaii. And so we can head inside now. Okay, so we are now standing in one of the galleries inside Aliʻiōlani Hale in the King Kamehameha V Judiciary History Center. This is the Monarchy Gallery. The Monarchy Gallery has been in existence since about 1989. What we're attempting to do here is to try and tell a little bit of the story of law here in Hawaii, both pre-contact and post-contact. And to do that, we try and put it in a little bit of context. In this gallery in particular, we talk about the transition from strictly a Hawaiian sense of law to this hybrid system that we would more recognize today that incorporates both Western and Hawaiian tenets of law. So we start out in the gallery as we walk around. We talk a little about pre-contact law here in Hawaii. And to give a little background on that, we talk about the societal structure in Hawaii pre-contact. So we look at the role of the ali'i, the maka'ainana, the kahuna, and the like, and how that fits in with the concepts of law. Come this way, we talk a little bit about the kapu system that was in existence pre-contact, and how that kapu system consisted of two types of kapu, which were the kapuakua, the religious laws, and the kapuali'i, the laws put forth by the ali'i to manage our day-to-day lives, and how violations of that law were dealt with depending on their severity. There would be an occasion where you could be put to death for violations of something severe as a violation of a kapuakua, or a religious law. For the most part in your day-to-day life, violations of the civil code or kapuali'i, they were dealt with within the community, the ahupua'a that you lived in. So your punishment could vary, and maybe it's going to be banished for a period of time or something like that. But within these two types of kapu system, there was this idea of what we call pu'uhonua. Pu'uhonua means place of refuge or sanctuary. The idea being that if you violate a law, if you were able to make it to sanctuary, you were pretty much safe. And within this idea of pu'uhonua, it wasn't just places that could be pu'uhonua, people could be pu'uhonua. Ka'ahumanu was a favorite of Kamehameha I. She was declared a pu'uhonua by him, so she had the ability or the the power to provide malu, or protection, to anyone who had violated a kapu. She's a key figure in the transition from the strictly Hawaiian way of thinking about law to this more hybrid system today. We say that sustained contact with foreigners begins in 1778 with Cook. When we get to the point at the death of Kamehameha I, in that roughly 40-year period of time, a large percentage of the population has died off from exposure to diseases and the like that have been introduced. So that is a rapid decline in the population. But at the same time, more foreigners are coming in to the island. So that starts to affect what is happening here. If you're following the kapu system, then things should be in balance. But here you are following that kapu, and so many people that you know, entire areas are being wiped out. What's going on? How have we offended the gods? What do we need to do to make some changes to put us on the right path? You have the arrival of American missionaries here in Hawaii, attempting to convert Hawaiians to Christianity, initially not having much success at all, but finally coming up with a game plan to convert Ali'i that will then allow the Makai Nana, the common people, to follow. So if the older kapu has fallen, it's going to be replaced now by a kapu that's sort of based on the Christian Bible. So you have many laws that are going to affect now. You have laws against adultery, laws against fornication, laws against hula going into place during this period of time. Many of the foreigners do not want a Christian-based law system or a law system based on the Bible, particularly like merchants and seamen and the like who are here. We get into the 1850s, 1860s. We have this new type of dealings with the land and property in particular, and more changes are going into place. As I said, the native population is still declining. Former missionaries who are now through the mahele are able to start to get the title to areas of land. And what they want to do with that land is they want to just start to develop plantations. Now, in order for you to have a successful plantation, you need to have a lot of people who are working on your plantation. The native population is still declining, so there is a decision made to start to import laborers into Hawaii. Initially, you have a large group of Chinese that are brought in to work on the plantations. That goes on for several years, and then they are followed by groups of Japanese, and then after that, other ethnic groups are being brought in. So it's almost a social experiment that is going on. But as these groups come in and they're eventually here, and then they start to assert that they want more rights here, the powers that be, the Royal Agricultural Society and the like, they start to look for new groups to come in to replace them. So as I said, initially the Chinese, that's followed by the Japanese, and you have other groups that are coming in. Koreans, you have Filipinos, you have Portuguese, you have Puerto Ricans, you have Swedes, you have Germans. All these people are being brought in to work as laborers, most of them contract labor on these plantations. And so this gets us into the late 1870s, 1880s, and now there's another movement that is going on. This group of rather powerful people, Muslim landholders here in Hawaii, they want Hawaii to be part of the United States. And that effort kind of starts to take shape. King Kalakaua is forced to sign a new constitution, replacing the Constitution of 1864. And that constitution reduces the king's power somewhat, but it also allows for non-citizens. It gives them the right to vote. So that drastically shifts the balance in power. And it's a few years later, when Queen Aliʻiōlani is on the throne, and she decides in 1893 to replace that constitution, that we have the overthrow of the kingdom take place. That overthrow actually takes place here, January 17th of 1893, at our back hallway here at Aliʻiōlani Hale. So this courtroom here is called the 1913 courtroom. This is the way this courtroom looked during the territorial period. Originally 4 courtrooms on this first floor of the building. So immediately after the overthrow, there is a push by this new provisional government in Hawaii, basically consisting of 13 businessmen that overthrown the monarchy. They want to get the United States to annex Hawaii, and there's an effort to get that to happen. It doesn't happen initially. You have people who are saying this overthrow was illegal, but you're seeing others that are saying this is an opportunity for the United States to exercise, manifest destiny. Eventually what happens is that joint resolution is used as the means for annexing the islands. And that happens in 1898, so that by 1900, with the Organic Act, Hawaii becomes a territory of the United States. The King Kamehameha V Judiciary History Center is open to the public during our regular operating hours here at Aliʻiōlani Hale. Generally speaking, between 8 in the morning and 4:30 in the afternoon, and that is Monday through Friday.